Hello and welcome to Hey Team, it's Klaxoon. My name is Charles, and for the next 30 minutes, we'll be exploring new ways of working with real world Klaxoon use cases. We'll look at how they did it using Klaxoon, the benefits they got, and we'll leave ample time to answer your questions. Today, I'm joined by two senior consultants from Strategic North, Hiren Odedra and Chris Peck. How are you guys doing today?
We are very well. Thank you, Charles.
Yes. You guys, before we got on, you told me that it's sunny in the UK. It's 100 degrees in Siberia, and I don't have AC in my home office. It's getting a bit steamy. I hope it's a bit cooler where you are. So I'd love to hear about a little bit more about Strategic North. What are you guys known for? What are you good at? And why do your clients keep on coming back?
So we are Strategic North. We are a research and brand strategy consultancy based in the UK. We specialize working with healthcare and pharmaceutical companies. We work alongside with them to unlock their full potential of their brands. So we'll be working with them on actionable customer research, to brand strategy, competitive strategy, portfolio strategy, or even looking into their in-market brand performance. And we work with almost all the top pharmaceutical companies, the top seven of the top 10 pharma companies.
Impressive. So we're going to be talking about virtual workshops today. But before we get into that, for those of you that are not familiar with Klaxoon, Klaxoon is about all those moments that teams come together. So we have a lot of those in our work days for meetings, trainings, workshop, project management, all hands. And a lot of those have changed the last few weeks as we've gone full remote. Luckily, with Klaxoon, you can easily synchronize and align your teams, make sure you're getting participation and engagement in meetings and workshops, and overall guarantee that your teamwork is efficient and effective. So I mentioned workshops, and you guys, I think you were telling me that before this pandemic, this global pandemic, you were on the road a lot. You were going to see clients a few times a week. You're in their offices. You were doing a ton of workshops. And then all of a sudden, at a drop of a hat, you couldn't do that anymore. You couldn't go see them. And you had to transform everything to virtual. So you decided, instead of just staying home and watch the telly, to transform all your workshops and make them with Klaxoon and still have that engagement, that participation. And in 4 months, I think it's around 50 workshops that have been completed with clients. Can you tell us a little bit more about this process, how this happened, how you decided to use Klaxoon to do this?
Sure. So at Strategic North, never a week or even a day goes by when we are not planning or running workshops. Um, we have been, so we are always running these workshops all the time. And just before the COVID situation actually came up, one of the clients approached us where they were running a long-term project where they had team based in approximately 13 to 15 different markets across countries, all the way starting from Indonesia to Peru, US, most of the countries in the middle. And we wanted to bring all these teams together to come and co-create a solution for them. So that's when we came across Klaxoon and we started using it. And then the pandemic came in, and due to that, lots of our workshops, which were face-to-face workshops, which we normally run mostly in the US and Europe, got cancelled. But because we are already on board using Klaxoon, we were able to convert those face-to-face workshops into virtual to get the same level of interactions.
Wow, so that's quite a challenge here. Just all of a sudden having to do that. I think everybody at home would love to see a little bit how you've been able to do that and the success you've had. So obviously you have over 50 different workshops, and I don't think we can show them all, but maybe you can share with us a couple of the use cases and how you've been able to transform how you work with Klaxoon.
Sure. So I'm going to quickly share my screen so I could show you a few things. So you should be able to see my screen.
Yeah.
So as I said, just as I touched base before, so we are a healthcare research and brand strategy consultancy, and we work with most of the global clients. And everything we do, we bring the customer in the middle. We always look at everything from the customer lens, and we bring the strategic thinking and challenge. And we work cross-functionally, so we work alongside the client, almost in partnership with them. And as you can see, these are the companies we work with. As you can, we've got a long list of companies we work with across a range of therapy areas. So that's where we bring in our expertise. Um, And just before we go into kind of the use case, just want to touch base here. What makes a really successful virtual workshop? And as we call it, the secret recipe for it is three things: the process, so getting alignment on that objectives of the workshop, and then planning the overall workshop beforehand, designing the approach for a workshop. And then once you have got that challenge solidified, then you design the workshop, design the activities to uh, achieve that objective. And then along with that, you need expert facilitation. So you can use tools and techniques, but you need that expert facilitation. That's where we bring our expertise in, and that creates a high performing workshop because you want to bring that energy levels always high.
Yeah, I think the beauty we found with Klaxoon is it really allows us to transition what was a kind of a physical process of workshops into virtual with the flexibility that we can spread across clients. We can pivot to use any of their communication platforms. We're not locked into kind of one overall system. It's really easy for everyone to be able to engage with on a second screen in one way. So we can focus the conversation on what's on screen, and we can guide and direct as we would in a face-to-face environment, but still have another way of inputting and gathering and driving that discussion. So we found it, yeah, a fantastic way of being able to kind of pivot from a physical workshop environment to a virtual one.
And as Charles mentioned a few times, so we have run in the last 4 months, just before pandemic, we run over 50 workshops. And the attendee size, I want to mention that because we'll touch base on that later on, anywhere between 6 to 70, depending on the objective of the workshop. And we'll have multiple facilitators if you're doing breakout rooms. And we have attendees working virtually with something like Klaxoon allow us to work with different people based in different markets, starting from 3 markets, 13 markets. And we get really good feedback at the end of it because we are still able to achieve what we are able to achieve face to face. But in one case, we had a client giving us feedback that they were actually able to achieve and move further and bring their thinking further than they would have done in a 1 full day or 3-day full day workshops. So that's kind of the power of virtual.
Yeah, no, just to build on that, I think you can just see in the bottom left there around, we've actually found in some situations where there's a real mix of extroverts and introverts, actually working virtually allows a more consistent voice across the spectrum of kind of dynamics in individuals, whereas sometimes that can be more of a struggle face to face and is down to facilitator to be able to bring that through. But actually on a virtual platform, it kind of is a real leveler for everyone to be able to engage and kind of speak about the content.
And also the flexibility. So again, we'll touch base in a minute, but again, the flexibility which Klaxoon provides when you're running this workshop, and you can do different things on the go, because you can't plan a workshop in advance. Things changes, the thinking goes in a certain direction. You want to create new exercises. So that's what Klaxoon allow us to do that as well. So just want to give a case study. So as I said, in February, a client contacted us. And then they're working with a particular cancer patients, and what they found out that after the initial treatment, the patients were not able, didn't know what to do, unsure what's going to happen to them next. They sometimes feel like they were failed in their treatment and didn't feel like medical professionals or the doctors were providing the right information and support. So a client wanted to work closely with the patients, with the doctors, but also their own associates based all around the world, to create a simple and effective support solution for these patients. And we recommended a 4-step approach, as you can see on the screen. We started with understanding and exploring the problems, the challenge. So we've done some interviews initially with the patients and physicians to understand what was the problem. Then we did some ideation sessions to develop a solution, 2 to 3 solutions. We took them back to the patients and physicians, and then we refined them further. So as you can see, we have run so many virtual workshops for each stage. For the first stage, we ran around 3. The second stage, we have run around 6. And then we are at the refine and finalize stage at the moment. We already run 3. We're planning another 1. And at the launch, we're going to run 3. So you can see those lots of workshops. We had a very close-knit team based, as I gave the example before, from 15 different countries. So we're trying to take them through and keep them engaged across all these different sessions.
All right. Love to see how you did that with Klaxoon. I think you're going to show us in the Brainstorm, the Klaxoon Brainstorm, an example of how you're able to do that.
Yeah. As you said, it will be very difficult to show you and go through each and every workshop we ran with them and the design of it. But what we normally do in a typical workshop, you normally want to start with an energizer. So the session might be, we don't try to run it more than 3 hours, but we always start with an energizer. An energizer is always a good way to start. With Klaxoon, you can set up a very quick energizer, not a lot of effort. So this here is an example, the actual one we used during the workshop, where we asked people that when you're running a workshop, come up with some ology, create some words, and it just breaks that ice and get them into the conversation. And then you can ask them to vote. So if you got around 15, 20 people, they give you and then you vote, and then you ask them to describe. Um, And then the other one, which is kind of, we use Brainstorm, and this is a good one we use. And this is one tool we use a lot. And this we use as an exercise just to get people start using the platform as well, because Brainstorm is one of the main things we use. So here we ask them, okay, we are in a lockdown. When the lockdown is over, where you would like to go on holiday? And we ask them to post some things. And here, as you can see, we ask them to put some photographs. We ask them to kind of use some scribbles if they're using an Apple Pencil. We ask them to use different colors. So they kind of get used to using the platform, but also it's a good icebreaker. And also, if you have more time, you can do more effort and energy put into it, but you can design adventure. So here, one of my colleagues designed this whole energizer where you go through what is a missing landmark. So some images are removed and you have to guess, and there are 4 to 5 steps, which is again a good way of getting the energy flex and bring you that competition, because again, with adventure, you can see the leaderboards.
That's great. So you're using a number of Klaxoon apps as an icebreaker to get things going. What's the challenge there? Because maybe someone has not used Klaxoon before. Did everyone pick that up easily? I see that people are drawing, they're sending pictures, they're typing away in the Post-its. How smooth is that at the start?
Yeah, I think the ability, once you've got that going, there's an exercise where those that have picked it up very quickly, they can work through the exercise, and it gives I guess a brief break once you start to be able to figure out if there's some people that haven't quite adapted to it. You can have a kind of offline conversation and just get them up to speed. They don't feel like they've missed out on anything. So you can really get everyone on the same page, going from 0 to 100 in how to use Klaxoon really quickly. They're engaged with the exercises and they're set from kind of 10 minutes into the workshop for the next 3-4 hours.
Great. Do you feel you're getting more engagement maybe? This is virtual, obviously, and a challenge for all people. The fact that this is sort of seamless, do you feel like you're getting more responses and more people engaged?
I think yes. And one of the things, again, Chris touched base on that earlier as well, that when you run using Klaxoon, you're giving the opportunity to the people who might be quiet, so you're introverts sometimes, they are not able to voice their opinion. Whereas with this, some of the workshops I have ran where you found that you get equal participation from different people and you get more ideas coming through. I'm sure Chris would be able to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the platform enabling people to either anonymously or non-anonymously, I suppose, you've got the flexibility to be able to do both. So some exercises will say, look, we want your name, we want to know who's shared this and why. And other ones we kind of give full anonymity for people submitting, so you can get real honest and kind of focused feedback on the questions that you're asking.
So you've gotten them energized, you've kicked things off. What do you do next?
So then we design, as I say, every workshop we run has got an objective or a challenge identified at the beginning. So then we design the exercises. And in true strategic North fashion, we try to mix it up. We like to bring the energy up always in the workshop to bring the highest engagement. So here, during the workshop exercises, we use different kind of, again, from the suite of Klaxoon tool, we use different things. So as you can see, we start with a polling question. So here is a screenshot taken from it. So you can ask a yes or no question that you show them a picture and say, does this reflect your local market? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? And the way it shows as well, intuitively the graphs as well, you get people into conversation as well. The other things we do, as I said, the another one is you can do is like a polling question. So again, this is an example of a polling question we do, that when should the oncologist should talk about the particular disease, and then you can ask them to vote on it. So you get everyone's opinion through it. But as I said, the one thing we use the most is the brainstorm. So I'm going to show you a quick exercise, which is an actual exercise we use. So this is one of the exercises we use a lot, which is called jobs to be done, where you look at the premise is that people don't buy things, they hire things to a particular job. So what they're trying to do functionally, what they're trying to do emotionally, what they're trying to do socially. And you can see you get lots of post-it notes coming through. And we, as the post-it notes come through, we kind of group them and theme them, and kind of as you can see, we can sketch them out, and we do the share back of those. So again, this is one of the exercises. You can see we can move them around. And then for this particular project, we were doing some ideation sessions. So we're using a particular exercise called mashup, where you use two different unrelated things together. So here we ask people about how you start about learning about diseases, and then you ask one thing what you find in the classroom, and then you push two things together. So when you're going to find about information, it's going to the internet, and then you go to iPads, and then you use them to come up with new ideas. So we use Brainstorm. As you can see, we can change the layout of it, and we can make it look the way we want, change the colors, and things like that.
So you're using a lot of visual collaboration. The Brainstorm also offers you a couple of views. I don't know if you use those at all, but the column and the list view, have you been using those a little bit as well, maybe?
Yes, we use column view a lot, and especially list view as well, because it's easy for people. So I think because you can see here, but it's not categorized at the moment, but you will see everything categorized automatically if it's done. And in the list view, you get all the ideas in the list format. And again, you can see them and organize them by categories or colors. So yes, we use it a lot. I'm sure Chris has used it different ways as well. So I'll ask Chris to expand his experience of using it as well.
Yeah, I think the key thing for us is the time invested upfront to plan the workshop and have all of these exercises laid out. But what the Brainstorm function allows us to do is have the flexibility kind of mid-exercise to quickly be able to just adapt and say, right, actually we're going to, this exercise we've delivered the objective, we've achieved this, but there's a really interesting conversation about this, so we can just pull off to another side bit of the breakout board and capture that kind of discussion, say, right, we need all of this discussion in green post-it notes so we know when it's getting clustered in the right area and people can engage and focus on that kind of particular like element or cluster. But yeah, it really provides the kind of platform for us to take our guided and structured workshop approach that we were doing previously and be able to add that element of flexibility or just kind of quick questioning on top across all of our participants.
And are you getting likes as well sometimes in this Brainstorm? Are you getting, after you've done an ideation session, getting people to like some of the ideas?
Yes, yeah, we ask them to, that's when we start asking them to prioritize things. You know, we ask them to normally like, and it's very simple. You just touch on it, add the heart button, it adds it. So especially when you're prioritizing ideas, it's very easy for them. And it's very, people are used to social media and they recognize the heart icon. So it's very easy to use that.
Yeah. And I think what we've also been able to do is break out sections of brainstorms and almost have breakout groups, right? So on Zoom, you can have breakout rooms, so you can actually get independent discussions going on in parallel and then bring everyone back and cycle through the boards. So you can have kind of zoned in sections across the same board and people are focusing on a different area, so they can have a breakout session and you can get through more content that way, but still on the same board, so everyone overall has the same visibility.
Right. And how about feedback? How are you getting a bunch of feedback after these workshops because of Klaxoon?
Yes. So what we normally do is we use survey functionality in Klaxoon to collect feedbacks. We ask them a few survey questions and then we get feedback. So here is an example. And again, it's very useful because it quickly creates the output of the workshop and we get a specific feedback. We ask them. We normally ask how easy it is to use Klaxoon, you know, in our surveys, and approximately 79% to around 80% people say that they find it very intuitive and easy to use.
Hmm.
And as I said, it's very intuitive, but it's also flexible. So if you're running a workshop, if you want to create a new brainstorm, it's just a click away. So you go to here, just press new brainstorm, and you just create a new brainstorm very quickly. So you just press a button, and it's ready for you to use. You can create polling questions. You can ask different polling questions or the rating questions. Again, we're using Klaxoon right now, and as you can see, in the middle of a conversation, if the conversation is going in a particular direction, you can open a live question or an exercise or a survey.
I would ask anyone at home, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send them. And I see one coming in here from Anna, who's a little bit worried if she needs a tech person here to help her run the workshop. And you guys were just mentioning it's super easy and seamless and intuitive, but I think maybe confirming that, because you went from being in person with people and transferring this to a virtual workshop. How easy was that process? And when you're in the room, when you're in your home office and doing these workshops, do you feel like you need an extra person to help you tech-wise?
So as I said, the way we run workshop is we are around 50 people strong at the company. So Chris or I would be facilitating, but we normally have kind of so it's already set up by an analyst on the project. But during the workshops, we have one dedicated person who kind of answers any queries during the workshop, especially if you got 70 people. But that person will be answering any tech queries if they have issues with Zoom or if they have issues with the code or anything like that, so they can support them on the chat. But for
And you can be multiple people as once, because I see someone asking about being the presenter and the admin. That's Patricia asking that question. You can be multiple people from Strategic North in the same workshop and moving things around and helping each other, right?
Exactly. That's what we do. I think Chris has done a few workshops as well, but we normally have 2 or 3 facilitators that we work together and move things around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would take on where there can be maybe some quite rapid fire conversations that we might want to have, and we want to cluster and theme and then really pull that through. If you've got a larger number of people, say 20, 25 plus, it can really help to have a couple of people's roles as part of that discussion is helping and clustering and theming the content coming through, whilst the facilitator then can kind of guide and orientate people around the screen, navigate to a particular focus area and have the discussion as that kind of crops up and ask the questions around and clarify and build. And then kind of move on to the next part that has already been kind of themed and pulled together in the background. So yeah, absolutely, we find that that works well.
Great. I'd love to get into some of the benefits. I know you've mentioned throughout here a bunch of the benefits, but for you guys, what has been sort of the biggest benefits of using Klaxoon for these virtual workshops?
I think the biggest thing for us is the flexibility for us. So the flexibility it provides in terms of designing the workshops and what we want to design and how we want to design. So that's the main thing. And the second thing is it's the user experience, or the way the platform has been designed, is very intuitive to use. So most people find it very easy to use it.
Yeah, I think the response that we've had from our clients about moving across to virtual working has been fantastic. In they kind of understand and they buy us for the way that we generate our workshops and the kind of thinking that we provide and what ultimately the outputs that enables them to go and achieve. But what we've been able to do through Klaxoon is recreate that environment virtually and still get to the same high quality outputs that we would have done face to face. We've just maybe kind of tweaked around the sides the way that we do it, being cognizant of like screen fatigue. So sometimes we'd have 2-3 day workshops back to back in a physical location. That needs to be kind of broken down into smaller chunks. So it might take a longer period and take more planning, but we can still get them to the same place with the same amount of engagement, the same cross-functional alignment that is really critical in these big multi-stakeholder organizations, that you need to come out at the end and have a decision agreed amongst all of the full kind of matrix of people so that you can move forwards.
In terms of frequent fire miles here, I think you've taken a hit. You're at home, but it sounds like you're saving more time, your client's time, by not maybe traveling so much. Is that, I mean, has that been a big benefit you've seen? Are you seeing this as a positive?
Yeah, it is a big positive for us, but also it's a big positive for our clients as well, because as we say, we work with the global clients, and most of the teams are based all around the world, Europe, Asia, as well as in US. So they have to fly everyone to one location. But with this new ways of working, they're realizing that for certain workshops, if you're running, if a project is going for 6 months, you don't need to fly everyone every month to one location. You can do some of the workshops virtually, but you can do some workshop face to face. And again, there as well, you can still use Klaxoon, because if you've got a bigger audience, you can still get their alignment and their responses and their feedback.
What do you think about going forward? I mean, are you going to go when we can travel again? Do you think you'll be like before, traveling all the time, or do you think you'll be doing a lot more virtual workshops with your customers?
I think there'll be a real mixed model. I think there'll be a step change in what people realize they can achieve by working virtually. I still think there'll be a kind of a need in a cluster for sometimes around these kind of big congresses that go on, or kind of pivotal moments in the kind of drugs development life cycle. So there'll still be kind of physical workshops and environments that will go there, but I think it will be a real hybrid model that will probably go forwards. I think one other thing that we also find with Ability on the platform is we frequently will provide kind of pre-engagement surveys, so things to get people thinking ahead of time. There'll be kind of focused pre-reads and really distilling the information down that we need the people attending the workshop to understand and engage with. But with Klaxoon and across time zones, that lets you be able to set up some exercises ahead of time, have a board to capture some thinking, and people can go into that whenever suits them, and then you can build off that when you go start with the workshop, or even further refine it and distill it down into a working kind of framework that you can then take into a workshop.
We've got a good question from Russ here, and about Agile. And in the Agile manifesto, they often talk that face-to-face communication is probably better than anything else. But it seems like you've been able to sort of level the playing field here between introverts and extroverts in these virtual workshops. He's asking if you have any more observations along those lines. How are you seeing these interactions between the people that you're working with now that they're no longer face to face?
I think it depends again on the workshop. So sometimes they said you get the introverts and extroverts. They post their ideas, and that kind of, if an introvert's idea is going up, when you're using that light functionality and you're bringing it up, then we open normally the field and ask people questions. So could you expand on this? Could you please tell us a little bit more about it? And then we get more interaction. But also, one of the other things, as you say, in Agile, you're always changing your ways, and based on discussion, you kind of bring the team together in alignment. So you could do a quick poll question to bring everyone together and say, is this how we made the decision? And then, as Chris was saying, that at the end of, we are running this workshop because you want to make a decision. See how those moments designed, and some of them you can do on the spur to bring team together in the decision making, and people feel that they were involved in the decision making process as a team together throughout the way.
We have one more question here from Anna. It's more of a technical question of your setup. And working from home, it's about a setup as well, being comfortable. And she's asking about, do you need a separate screen and computer when you're doing these workshops from home?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to have a two-screen setup, so kind of one with a laptop, one with a monitor, mainly to be able to engage participant responses as well. So keeping the video live, being able to see who's engaged, who's kind of focused on the content versus what's on screen. And one thing that we kind of find works well with maintaining that engagement with our the attendees is having us controlling the center of the screen and where the focus is, and using kind of second devices that are there just purely as input. So you're not there to kind of look at the content. The content is owned by whatever the kind of communication platform you're on, and we can guide and focus people's attention on it. It's then kind of more their digital paper to be able to submit their ideas or interact with it as a second screen, so they're not flicking between the two. So you can really kind of keep that engagement going.
Okay. I see that we are running out of time. We've got about 60 seconds left. What would you say to anyone at home who is kind of worried here about taking their workshops remote and doing them virtually? What final tips would you give them?
Um, so I have a very quick slide which I thought I could summarize very quickly, and this is something we could go through. And one quick tip we could say is any workshop, even if you're running virtually, don't forget the objective or challenge you're trying to run your workshop for, because you shouldn't compromise the objective or challenge of the workshop, even if you're running it virtually. And most of the time, the top tips would be to think about what is the objective. And most of the objectives could be divided. Either you're trying to ideate, you discuss something, you're gaining input, align, or inform. And as you can see here, if you're doing ideation as you go forward, you can increase the number of participants. If you're doing ideation, you want to keep the group small. But if you're just doing one-way communication information, you get up to 100 people. So as you can see, you can increase the numbers. Same way the number of sessions you run could increase. So if you're doing ideation, you want to run multiple sessions. But if it's one-way webinar like this, you could just do it in one. But I said the main tip is just don't worry about the technology, just give it a go, and you will be learning. And you can always use the platform you like using. If you're comfortable using Zoom, use that. But then you can top it up with Klaxoon, which could be the main interactive platform, as Chris said, which could be used to input.
Okay. Chris, any final words?
I think for me, it's about when you're designing your workshop, keeping that time invested up front and not thinking that because you've moved to a digital space, that's one space that you can save time. In actual fact, you probably need to put more attention on the design up front, and then focus, as Hiren said here, on is it expansive thinking or reductive thinking, and using that to guide the number of people, the way you shape your exercises, and the choice of platform that you've got.
Great. Thank you both. Super insightful. I hope that we've inspired a lot of people at home to try this themselves. If you want to get started, Klaxoon currently has a 3-month free trial. Anyone can test this out and do virtual workshops like Strategic North is doing. And we're not only letting you use the platform, you will get expert guidance and assistance for the 3 months from an expert from Klaxoon. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to be with you here. We have another live coming up July 7th around learning and the impact on remote teams. So thank you again, guys, and Klaxoon out.
Thanks.
Thanks.